Lately, we've been talking a lot about the fake meat industry and the sort of new version of the fake meat industry. You see, as I've said before in recent videos, it really does look like the plant-based meat alternative industry is shrinking, going back to fit its natural place in the market. This is being fueled by a lot of things, including, the bad economic conditions that pretty much everybody but elected officials seem to be accepting as being real. And it's also being fueled by the very fact that quite a lot of people have been willing to try plant-based meat alternatives due to the prevalence of the propaganda out there telling people that it's much healthier to eat than meat, only to discover the stuff tastes like garbage. Either the best tasting ones sort of taste like fast food hamburgers, which for my money isn't a ringing endorsement of them. And usually the people who say that are often have engaged in habits that blunt their taste buds, whether it's use of tobacco or other such things. So, for a variety of reasons, the plant-based meat companies, that section of the economy, is shrinking, and shrinking noticeably. We've all seen the sad, sad saga of Beyond Meat. Well, not so sad, really, other than for the people who work there. It is a sad saga, but otherwise, it's not a sad story. That company that offers ultra-processed plant proteins with some weird concoction added to it to make it so that when you bite into it or you cut into their product, a sort of red liquidy substance comes out to mimic what people call blood on steak when you cut into it, or into a hamburger if it's really undercooked. That stuff is failing. And I'm not sad about this. But there's a new sort of alternative coming up, and this is a very different one. Strictly speaking, this fake meat is actually meat. That may sound like an oxymoron to you. How can fake meat be actually meat? But the simple truth of the matter is, we're talking about lab-grown meat cell cultures. That's what's coming up. And so when we see these kinds of stories coming out, this is going to be the next thing they push. And I have a story for you about how we're probably going to see this much sooner than you might think, because this stuff sounds like something out of Star Trek. Practically sounds like the replicators out of Star Trek, where, you just tell a computer, give me this, and boom, there it is. I wouldn't want to eat that stuff either, especially since deep in Star Trek lore, they tell you how they get the raw materials to make that stuff, and it's kind of gross. But anyway, we have a fun little news story for you that comes to us from Food Navigator News. They give us this headline: Cultivated meat breakthrough. Media supplement achieves full muscle maturation on scaffold within 48 hours. Okay, so this article goes into a lot of really industry jargon, the sort of the techno-can, if you will, of the kind of the inside language of the industry. And all industries have their insider language, and the more rooted in the natural sciences any industry is, the more jargony it is and the harder it is for most people to understand. But they have found a way to achieve from just the beginnings of their cell cultures to full, quote, muscle maturation, meaning a steak, basically, within 48 hours of growth. That's all it takes. It's incredible. And it's disturbing. And I say it's disturbing because this is what they're going to try to replace meat with. And they're desperately working to get this speed timeline up to make this a viable alternative meat. And they're also trying to bring the cost down. So we're going to see in this article. So let's take a quick look, one excerpt from this article for this video today. Quote, scaffolding technology allows the development of more complex cultivated meat products, such as fillets and steaks. When used in this 3D environment for chicken and beef cell culturation, Profuse says its supplements can achieve an 80% reduction in the duration of the muscle growth phase to only 48 hours. Growth acceleration aside, the startup says its technology also elevates muscle tissue protein content by a factor of 5. This achievement is the culmination of a year of dedicated hard work aimed at optimizing methods for muscle growth, harnessing the full potential of our media supplement within the demanding 3D system based on an edible scaffold, Mikrowski told Food Navigator. Whether used in 2D or 3D environments, Profuse technology estimates it can help cultivated meat players reduce production costs by up to 40%. We have accomplished this because we maintained consistent improvements, including reduced time, enhanced conversion efficiency, and consequently higher muscle mass, explained the CEO, end quote. So the company here is called Profuse Technology, and they are celebrating their breakthrough in cultivated meat growth techniques. Start paying attention to their stock if they're being publicly offered, and if they're not, they're going to be probably soon. This is going to be a game changer for them. I honestly do believe that this is going to be something that will allow them to bring this to market. And so I'm going to ask you again this rhetorical question, because I've been asking this in the last several videos. Would you eat this junk? It's a loaded question, I know. So let's rephrase it. Would you eat this lab-grown meat, knowing that they can now get you a full ribeye steak or full filet mignon in 48 hours? They've boosted the protein 5 times, which means they were having trouble getting these lab-grown steaks to actually have the protein they were needing. Probably means that these things also fell apart in the laboratory setting once they were taken off their scaffolding. Sounds like they're close to having a viable steak. And a 40% reduction in the cost is going to go a long way towards making this very competitive with real meat. If you're a rancher watching this, how are you going to compete? What are you doing to compete against these science fiction dystopian technologies are pushing? I'm very curious about this. I do hope that direct meat sales are the future. That on the flip side of all this fake meat we're seeing, the sudden growth in online and local meat sales is going to change things. 5 years ago, ButcherBox existed, but not much else did. There were a few other small ones, but now there's a whole scores of these things out there. You see mainstream political talk shows now advertising Good Ranchers, okay? That's not an endorsement of that company. Never had their product. I have nothing positive nor negative to say about them. But you see this now, direct meat sales are mainstream. They really are. You see more and more people willing to figure out, if they can figure out how to do it, going to their local ranchers and buying meat directly from them. My hope is that's the future, that we get decentralized, because the one consequence that you're going to have of this, if this meat is 100% safe to eat, which I'm sure the FDA will tell us, and all the other health authorities that we are supposed to listen to, not question in any way, I am sure that they are going to tell us this is 100% safe. Despite the fact that I had somebody in my comments from my last video on this subject just the other day say, yeah, that they work in an industry where they culture cells in a laboratory setting. There's no way that they would ever want to eat anything grown that way, because they know how it works, at least at the most basic level. And they're not exactly confident that this stuff would be a good idea to eat. So my hope is that the pushback, if you start seeing the grocery stores replacing real meat with the lab-grown stuff, that the pushback is that we start buying our meat from actual cattle ranchers. Yes, that means most people are going to have to buy chest freezers or the freezer cubes or the big stand-up freezer like I have at home. That's something people will need to invest in. I will also tell you that we are, as you're watching this video now, you might be aware, we've entered what I call candy season. Candy season, the beginning of candy season starts about 6 weeks or so before the kickoff of Christmas and the Christmas shopping season, at least in the United States. So keep an eye on those sales. You might be able to find not just meat sales, but if you've been thinking about a big freezer, this is the time of year to consider it. For all, it's the gift buying season. And buy yourself a nice gift if you want to stock up on meat in case this stuff does hit the markets in the next 2 years. So again, I'm going to ask you this question. Will you eat this stuff? 48 hours to get a full steak. Let me know if that sounds like a wonderful, miraculous breakthrough to you, or something extremely dystopian. Let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't, it does help. So to share this on social media, that helps too. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for tuning in.